met them either individually or collectively as part of the stakeholder consultation sessions we had in both May and earlier in November this year. But maybe just if I can give them a brief introduction. It is a team from Boost Consult and Genesis Analytics. Boost Consult is based out of London, and Genesis Analytics is based out of Johannesburg. We really did benefit from a collection of a team of excellent consultants with a very diversified experience. We have the benefit that a portion of the same team was responsible for the initial market assessment. So we've been able to leverage from the continuity, given the in-depth consultations that are done at that stage. And then we have had the pleasure of having an additional level of expertise added and a new range of views added to that same consultancy team to make sure that as we're moving forward, we're taking into account all the necessary views and perspectives. I think for us, it was very important for us that the consultancy team that was appointed was not being brought in to write the plan. They were coming in to really work with our stakeholders, work with the members of the Master Plan Steering Committee to help craft and put together all these views, all this content into a lucid document that was very well benchmarked. The real value they bring to the table is their very broad experience across multiple jurisdictions to help us as we're identifying our priorities to put in place the necessary context of what other jurisdictions have experienced and how they have addressed some of the problems we're identifying and implemented some of the solutions we're proposing to put forward. I think it's noteworthy, take into account that the team from Boost Consult just completed a very widespread consultative work for the City of London, comparing the global international financial centers, trying to draw out lessons learned and key issues for implementation. So we've had the opportunity to leverage off that very broad-based base of experience. The team is made up of Mr. David Green, Mr. Hugh Simpson, Mr. Mauro Mella, who are the three present today. And they have one other member, Mr. Stuart Turner, who is not present today, but I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, engaged with him during our consultations early in the year. I think with those very few comments, it's really also to reiterate the fact that members of this team were with me in London 2 days ago when we were doing a level of market sensitization on what we're looking to do with this master plan in the context of an investment, UK-Kenya investment conference that was going on. We're able to put together a very successful capital markets roundtable, bring together key institutions across the City of London to get insights into what we're looking to do, and I think to hopefully make sure that we'll share with them the consolidated views of the Kenyan industry to make sure that as we identifying answers to the questions, we're answering the questions not only from our domestic perspective, but also the international perspective. With those very few comments, I have the pleasure of welcoming the team to start their presentation and take us through.
Paul, thank you very much for that introduction. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure to be here, and especially in this 50th anniversary year for Kenya. If I can add a personal note, I was a little boy 50 years ago when Kenya became independent, but I remember watching the ceremonies on television. So it's a real privilege for me to be here 50 years later and to be able to make maybe a small contribution to the next 50 years of Kenya's success. As Paul said, he, David, and I have come from an investment forum that was held in London 2 days ago. At that forum, we heard a lot about the fantastic qualities of Kenya, its natural resources, as the chairman said, its geographical location at the heart of Africa, and also people emphasized the quality of the people in Kenya. The point of the Capital Markets Master Plan that we're working on is essentially to build on the wonderful strengths and also to realize the potential. So I really want to emphasize the points that were made by the previous speakers, that the master plan needs to look in two directions. It needs to look inwards. It's a vehicle for helping to realize the potential of the country, to generate investment in the essential infrastructure projects, to support the process of financial inclusion, to make sure that development is genuinely nationwide, affecting all parts of the country. So it has to look inwards and be a domestic program. It also has to look outwards, because an important part of the program is to attract international interest, both attracting international investment into the country, and I think just as important, attracting international financial firms to come and locate themselves in Kenya. That's what will make Kenya a real financial centre, having people, decision makers on the ground here generating business, making decisions. Having heard the presentations in the meeting on London on Tuesday, I think it's completely possible for Kenya to position itself as one of the major financial centres in the world and one of the leading financial centres, maybe the leading financial centre for Africa. But a lot has to be done to do that. There has to be a willingness to change, and I would completely support what the chairman was saying earlier about the need to introduce competition. In order to make the master plan a success, markets will need to open up. This means there will need to be competition. This is not always popular with the people who have a leading position in the market at the moment, but it's important to open up markets, allow competition, and the people who have a leading position at the moment will have a leading position in a much bigger market if they stand back and leave some room for new people to come in. So let me say a bit about how we're approaching this. As previous speakers have said, we have already conducted a market assessment report earlier in the year, which was really valuable in identifying the strengths and the weaknesses of the system as it is now. We've benefited hugely from many meetings with individual firms, with trade associations, with institutions. We've also benefited hugely from some very lively and animated discussions with the steering committee, challenging, probing, pushing the recommendations. We're now at the point of putting together a draft report. We actually have a draft report which is being circulated to the steering committee to get their comments. We have come up with, at the moment we have over 100 action points in this report. We're looking at a 10-year program, so this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. But I know Kenyans are champions at marathons, so I think a marathon plan is a good one for Kenya. I would also emphasize what the previous speaker said. Although we consultants are holding the pen, it has to be a Kenyan story that we tell. So it's really important that we get your input, your views, your suggestions, your comments. As I say, we've had a lot of really valuable meetings individually, through the steering committee. The three of us are here today and tomorrow, so if there's anyone in the audience who feels they haven't yet had a chance to give us your views, please come and let us know. We'd be delighted to meet you. If we can fit you in today, tomorrow, we'd be very happy to do that. So now, let me move on to what we're doing. As I said, the master plan, it's a 10-year program, but before you start on a journey, you have to know where you're trying to get to. So the starting point for our work has been to come up with what we think is the vision for the Kenyan capital markets. If you look ahead 10 years, where do we want to be at the end of the process? Because if we know where we're trying to get to, then you can talk about the steps along the way to get there. So let's work around this picture. The starting point is Kenya should have a sound, well-regulated domestic marketplace. Because the foundation for everything is the domestic marketplace. That's what attracts interest, that's what generates investment, that's the building block for everything else. An important building block of the domestic marketplace is the financial market infrastructure. By this we mean things like the depository, CDSC, we mean the payment system operated by the central bank. In future, potentially we mean clearing houses and central counterparties to develop the new markets which don't even exist yet. And again, supporting what the chairman was saying earlier, it's essential this financial market infrastructure operates in line with best international standards, because that's what attracts the international investors, the international market players, and gives them confidence that this is a market where they're happy to operate, because they can look at it and say, yes, we know how it works, we're comfortable with the standards it's operating with, this fits in with our global operations, we will come and do business here. Another important foundation for that financial market is the legal framework. It's essential that when people do business, they're confident that the contracts will be honored, that there won't be any doubt cast on the outcome of the transaction that they're going into. It's important that the legal framework evolves and supports financial markets as new products, new markets develop. So the vision is that the market will have a sound legal framework and one that evolves in response to the evolving markets. It's also important that the capital markets don't exist in a world of their own. They need to be integrated with the domestic financial system. As I'll say in a moment, that is how they deliver benefits into the domestic economy. Financial markets are, above all, a business that's built on people. So again, if you look forward, the vision will be that Kenya will generate its own domestic talent, that there will be a workforce that is qualified and expert in financial markets. There will be homegrown talent, but it will also attract talent from other countries, because financial markets need that interchange of experts moving from country to country, bringing different ideas from one market to another market. It's also important that the users of the financial markets are educated, so they know what it is they're doing, they know why they're using financial products. So again, the vision is of a well-educated domestic user base. And that means both retail customers who know what they're doing when they maybe buy a mutual fund or buy bonds, but also educated business users, so that if you develop derivative markets, the businessmen who use those derivatives for hedging understand what it is they're doing, what risks they're taking on, what risks they're laying off. When you're doing all of this, there's a lot to talk about. So part of the vision is that Kenya will not be shy about its achievements. It will go out and promote itself as a financial center. And that means it will be promoting itself as a gateway, or as the chairman said, the heart. The heart, after all, is the organ that circulates the blood around the system. So Kenya can be the financial heart that circulates the finance around the system. It will be the entry point for international markets coming into Africa, for Africa going out into the world. Financial markets also tend to concentrate in one place. If you look at the great financial centers of the world, like Hong Kong, New York, London, they're terribly concentrated, because that sort of close location of people, so that bankers can talk to clients, so that fund managers can talk to their advisors. They need to be close together, so that it's very easy to meet and talk and exchange ideas, negotiate deals. So we don't know where it will be, but I'm confident that the financial business will be concentrated in one place, but that place will have good connections with other financial centers. And I mean partly physical connections like flights, telecoms, but also legal and regulatory connections. MOUs, agreements on market access, so that business can be done easily between Kenya and the other financial centres. We'll say more later about the centres of excellence, but there are many centres of excellence in Kenya already. The vision for the future is it will build on those and they will become even more excellent. Maybe I should have mentioned this earlier, but the domestic markets will be very liquid and dynamic. That means developing the securities markets that already exist, so that in the future the vision is these will be deep and liquid markets, but we also imagine there will be new markets for commodity derivatives, financial derivatives, so that these provide a wide range of options. And that's how the capital markets will benefit the economy. They will be a source of finance for infrastructure developments. They will give domestic businesses more options for generating the finance for long-term investment. They will give domestic businesses more options for risk management, so that they can lay off risks that at the moment they can't manage in any other way. They will also give domestic savers more opportunities for diversification, because in a financial centre, business flows both ways. Although there's a big emphasis on the master plan as a way of attracting inward investment into Kenya, a thriving financial market will also see investment going out of Kenya. Domestic savers will want to diversify their investments and buy investments in the rest of the world. So a flourishing market will have movements in both directions. And finally, of course, the capital markets will benefit the Kenyan economy by generating employment. There can be
Started a little late. First of all, our apologies, but we'll move straight to the program. I'll just run you very quickly through the program. This is a half-day program. We'll have...
Morning, everybody. I think I'm extremely grateful that you're all here. I literally crossed oceans and continents to be here this morning. I landed this morning, but that's really just a token to just how critical and important this meeting is, and the very fact of our engagement with you is to the authority and our Master Plan Steering Committee to make sure that the work we're doing is very well aligned with your own expectations of where the capital markets need to go. So I'd like to start by just appreciating the presence of the chair of the Capital Markets Authority, as well as the board members, the chair in absentia, and members of the Capital Markets Steering Committee, chairmen, board members, and chief executives of our key market institutions and licensees, chairmen and chief executives of our critical industry associations, senior representatives of academia, our development partners and policymakers, and also our master plan consultants who have been walking this path with us. It really is a pleasure for the authority to be able to bring together such a diverse mix of people to engage with us and ask us the relevant questions as to what we're seeking to achieve with the implementation of this master plan, as well as looking critically at the headlines and implementation steps that we're identifying as being critical to the implementation of the forward movement of our market. When you look at, all of us are very conscious of our responsibilities and frankly obligations in the context of the Vision 2030 and the critical role the capital markets are expected to play in the delivery and the funding of that vision. So it's truly in that much broader national context that the authority has really had the pleasure of working with our Master Plan Steering Committee to go through a very consultative and engaged process of the design and determination of an appropriate master plan to move the Kenyan capital markets to the next level. Just as a matter of background, I know a number of you have been active participants with us through the key stages of this process, but all the way we're very proud to appoint this Master Plan Steering Committee in approximately October of last year. And following that appointment, and very extensive internal self-evaluation, quite frankly. We were able to now start charting a roadmap forward. It started with a phase 1 market assessment report to really try and identify very critically what are the gaps, what are the weaknesses in this market before we start trying to come up with solutions. We need to understand where we're coming from. Running from there, we're able now to commence phase 2 of the project, which was now looking at what needs to be done. We know where we are, but where do we need to go? And how do we make sure the targeting of where we need to go is very well aligned to the national, frankly, the Constitution, the Vision 2030 process, and at a more of a sectoral level, the targets and objectives of establishing Nairobi as an international financial center. For us, it's very important as we're structuring this master plan to bring out the critical role it's going to play in devolution, because we never want a mistake to be made that this is a Nairobi County project. The Nairobi International Financial Center is really about identifying a core locale through which funding will be generated for national purposes and not just for a single county. And we're glad to be able to make sure that will come to fruition. Now, we're also very glad to note that throughout this process, the National Treasury has walked with us and guided us as to the national outlook and expectations. We had expected the Principal Secretary, Dr. Kamau-Thuge, to be with us today, but most unfortunately he was unable to attend. But we remain very confident that the Treasury, who are not only a member of our board, but are also a member of the Master Plan Steering Committee, are fully vested in the process and are very much committed to the implementation of the final plan.